history that was sporadic. It was not. It was what she could get at the time, and it certainly wasn't complete, but it was a beginning, and it spurred interest, further interest, and so I think it was Ann Petrus who really invited Sister Mary Christine. Are you here, Ann? Is Ann here? I don't see her. She's teaching. Was designated to, because she's fluent in Spanish, Mary Christine is, and she made a number of trips to Mexico to do interviews, and of course she hit the archives and did all the kind of research that she does so well, because she's quite an accomplished author, as we know, and she pulled it together, so it's really based on oral history, kind of, and not just kind of, but it's really stories that are fleshed out or joined together by the research of what was going on at that time. And so Mary Christine said, as Pearl says, we need somebody to read and to advise and to challenge and to, this is good, but it could be better, or you could say this in a different way, whatever. So the four of us met regularly, and I must say, I think I read the book more times than I wanted to, but I really, we did. It was a collaborative effort, and one that the story needed to be told, because this is such a unique group of sisters. I mean, they are, if you've ever visited Querétaro or Mexico City at Providencia, which just happens to be the little colonia where the sisters are located in the city. It's not because they're there, it's, I guess God put us there, And so it's a wonderful history, and one of the sisters is here. She is a novice, but she's doing her novitiate here. Ana Lourdes, would you stand up? Ana Lourdes Gonzalez. She's in the Mexico region. She and Sister Melissa Cisak are doing their novitiate, and Sister Helen Marie Mix, right over here, is their novice director. So Ana Lourdes is getting acclimated to U.S. language and culture and politics, probably more politics than she would like. But we love having her here, and she was part of the readers, I'm sure, in Mexico, and offered advice as well. So the book just was a thing that, there are things that should happen, and there's a time in which they should happen, and the time coincided with Sister Mary Christine's ability and had some time to do this book, among her many other books that she has authored. So thank you, Mary Christine. We love working with you, and we love the book. So good.
I need a mic. I want to give credit to one more person that we inadvertently forgot, and that is the one who designed the cover of the book. Catherine, are you here? There she is. Yes, she designed the cover. The cover is the actual aqueduct built in the 1700s in Querétaro. And if you look closely, there's a truck on the right side of the picture. That's the sister's truck. This is an authentic. Chosen. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
I've chosen to read the part that brings the sister, or it begins when the sisters are already in Mexico. They had plenty of adventures before them in San Antonio, but eventually they ended up in Querétaro, and this is how I explain that. Mother Amata saw signs of a genuine religious vocation in the perseverance of these young women. Since Galindo was no longer a possibility, Galindo was a colonial residence that we had been promised. But when we looked into it, we found out that there were too many strings attached. So we didn't go to Galindo. But Mother Amata received permission from Bishop Marciano Tinajero y Estrada of Querétaro on August the 5th for the congregation to come to his diocese. CDP sisters Rachel Moreno, Vitalis O'Donoghue, and Solano Gallego, with 6 young women, arrived in the city, in the state of Querétaro, it's the capital of the state, on September 10th, 1957. Mr. and Mrs. Bill Locks, some of you old people will remember them, drove a truck with supplies that Sister Rachel had collected. They included 1,000 books she had received from a professor at Catholic University. The first days were arduous. They rented a 2-story, 4-room house on the Calzada de las Artes for 25 pesos per month. The priest who owned the house lived in a separate apartment with his mother. The upper story of the house had room for sisters Rachel, Vitalis, and Solano, with a dormitory for the 6 aspirants. A kitchen and dining room area used as a parlor were on the ground floor. The furniture and cooking stove they had ordered had not arrived. So the first night they slept on the floor and were thoroughly bitten by mosquitoes. Flimsy wooden produce crates obtained from the market served as the chairs and tables for a few weeks. Bathing was possible with only 1 bucket of water shared by all. Their food included unfamiliar vegetables Sister Rachel brought weekly in quantity from Mexico City, and U.S. government peanut butter. They boiled the lettuce to prevent amoebic dysentery. The austere conditions were no match for Sister Solano, who left after a month. Sister Rachel and her young charges did fancy work for sale. They celebrated United States feasts such as Halloween and the 4th of July, along with Mexican feasts such as the Cinco de Mayo and the Dia de los Muertos. The citizens of Querétaro, the capital of the state, became used to see Sister Rachel drive on the narrow streets of downtown. At first, she had great difficulty persuading banks to exchange American dollars for Mexican pesos. The new group suffered rejection from people who called them the divine rich ones, or the divine dollar. Only 2 pastors accepted them. think that's enough about the first days. I thought I would read as the second part in English the observations of a sister from Kentucky, a CDP from Kentucky, who came to work with the sisters. In 1981, the newly professed sisters welcomed Sister Regina Baker, a Sister of Divine Providence from Kentucky. The CDPs of Kentucky are a province of the Mother House of Saint-Jean-de-Bassel in Europe, in France. For 6 months in 1981-82, El Pujal, Ciudad Valle, in San Luis Potosí, was the ministry site for Sisters Angela Baeza, Blanca Estela Flores, and Regina Baker, whom they called Hermana Arena. The village is famous for harvesting the sand from the Tapawan River, which is very valuable for construction projects. Sister Regina prepared for this mission by attending the Mexican American Cultural Center in San Antonio, Texas. In Mexico, she lived first in the house in Providencia, Mexico City, using her minimal Spanish-speaking ability to prepare 120 children for their first communion. Then she went with the 2 native Mexican sisters to the parish of Guadalupe in El Pujal, where the Spiritans of the Immaculate Heart of Mary had ministered since 1970. When the sisters arrived, they visited the parishioners to determine their needs. Then they prepared couples for marriage and individuals for First Communion. The pastor was a disappointment to the sisters because he promoted US United States products and mores rather than adapting to Mexican culture. Thanksgiving, for example, he invited Regina, Sister Regina, to celebrate with the 8 United States religious stationed in that town, but he did not include her 2 Mexican companions. Sister Regina declined his invitation and instead enjoyed celebrating with her little community in their house with a thatched roof. Sister Blanca Estela baked a chicken, and Sister Angela studied the neighbor's turkey for days until she could draw a turkey to put on the table on Thanksgiving Day. In El Pujal, Sister Regina discovered that unbaptized children were sometimes called animalitos. Yeah. And poor families would often not have their children baptized because they could not afford the traditional fiesta as that was expected for such occasions. I wanted to read this part too. Sister Regina became aware of some cultural differences between Mexico and the gringos or gringas like herself. Number 1, sense of time. To be punctual meant to come 15 to 30 minutes after the designated time. Number 2, priority of people. always had priority over schedules. A catechist would come late because a visitor showed up at her house and she had to entertain the visitor. Number 3, sharing food. Food was always shared, even if it meant dividing a single tortilla into pieces or sharing a bottle of soda with everyone present. Number 4, cause of illness. The liver was always blamed, although the gallbladder was probably more likely. After she left Mexico, Sister Regina worked in Ecuador and then went back to Kentucky. So that gives you some flavor of what was going on there and what the sisters put up with. I would also like to read a different part in Spanish, if that's okay with you. This part is about the latest ministry of the sisters. It's called mobile ministry. They have a truck, I guess you'd say, with panels, which they wheel to a public place, and the children gather around, and the sisters instruct them depending on what they need. They don't have a set curriculum. El ministerio más reciente de las hermanas de la Divina Providencia se inició con la ayuda de Jessica Martínez, quien anteriormente fue hermana de la Divina Providencia y de la Inmaculada Concepción, de la rama de Bélgica. Ella supervisaba una escuela para niños en la calle, or niños de la calle, that means street children, en Cali, Colombia. Ella continúa ayudando en este ministerio en México, en la escuela móvil, que es un proyecto pionero y único. En Querétaro empezó en 2012 y está basada con el modelo de un tipo de escuela que se originó en Bélgica. No era vinculado con el sistema de educación de México. La escuela recibe noticias y información de instrucción de Bélgica. Y los maestros en la escuela reciben 4 semanas de capacitación. Los informes de progreso y los registros de asistencia, it's hard to read here, se envían por lo general a Bélgica, pero cada escuela local es independiente. El salón de la clase es un pizarrón expandible sobre ruedas que se estaciona temporalmente en una banqueta una banqueta en el centro, cerca del mercado o de un parque público. Hay material para todos los niveles de primaria y secundaria. El material para enseñar se coloca en 6 paneles sólidos que se deslizan hasta afuera. I'll continue in English because I can't, my eyesight is bothering me here. The panels are mobile. They go on a truck, and the sisters set up the panels, and depending on what children come and what level they are, they instruct them. Usually by means of games. Games that teach them mathematics or vocabulary building or decision making. So that's the latest of Mexico.